Now, increasingly, more African Americans are visiting Africa in general and Nigeria in particular, as they seek to connect with their ancestral home. The latest is a group from the organization known as African American Male Education Network Development Organization, or A2MEND. They are on a study tour of Nigeria aimed at promoting cultural education, bridging the gaps of understanding between Nigerians and African Americans, fostering healthy exchanges and promoting the development of partnerships. They've been in Lagos for a few days, where they've been visiting the Badagry Slave Museum, among other places, and also sampling the mandatory jollof rice. And now they are here in Abuja, visiting sites such as the Arts and Crafts Market, Jabi Lake, Zuma Rock, and the National Mosque. There's also been considerable academic engagement. Well, for more on their visit, I'm joined now in the studio by the president of the Cosumnes River College in Sacramento, California, Dr. Edward Bush, who is also a founding member and president-elect of A2MEND. And I'm also joined by a student member of A2MEND who's traveling with the group, Xzavier Boykin. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
I was going to start by asking you, what do you think of America sort of attacking Iran?
Well, I mean, geopolitics is not my area of expertise,
right,
but my area of expertise is the condition of African American people in America. I do know, whether it's in a time of war or a time of peace, the condition of African Americans remain precarious, that we continue to struggle, we continue to be second-class citizens, that we continue to try to fight to be seen and to be recognized in our full humanity. So almost regardless of what happens within the conditions of America, we oftentimes find ourselves at the bottom. Malcolm X said this: if America has a cold, black people catches the flu. And I think this is the same situation that we're going to see here, given how this plays out with the growing conflict that we are seeing.
Yes, but of course, I mean, young people like you, many of them are in the army, and we've just heard that they've been attacking a military base in Qatar and Iraq, so I would imagine that would create some concern.
It's a very sickening feeling, and as being a young scholar myself, I feel like it is my duty and is my initiative to try to be a part of this fight. I feel like in this world there is too much destruction and not enough healing. So I believe we need to take a step back and realize we all can coexist, move one together, and just bring back healing. Because at the end of the day, this world has a lot of repairing to do.
Absolutely. Well, let's move to the core of your visit. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw that at you there, sort of thing.
No.
But tell us more about the purpose of your visit to Nigeria.
The purpose is twofold. In our work with African American men and boys, we find cultural identity plays a huge role in producing successful academic outcomes, finding oneself, knowing who you are. And so in order to know who you are, as you mentioned in the beginning, you have to go back to the source. Some studies suggest 30 to 40% of all African Americans can trace their lineage to Nigeria. So it's appropriate when we do identity development for us to come to Nigeria, so we could begin to understand a better sense of who we are and where we come from, go back to our past in order for us to move forward. Is one of the main reasons why we are here.
Well, that's a very good point. I'm going to come back to that issue with you, but let me ask you this, Xzavier. I mean, is it your first time in Nigeria?
So no, first time in Nigeria, yes, actually. I was able to be blessed enough to come to Africa before on a service trip with another nonprofit organization.
Where did you go?
I went to Johannesburg, so Joburg.
Okay, right. And generic question, first impressions.
It's definitely different. I did notice a lot of European people in Johannesburg,
right,
due to the colonization and other history. So that's something I did not like, honestly, if I'm gonna be very transparent. But I would say the difference coming from the States and coming back home is I automatically felt welcome. Being born in America, I feel like I'm born in a box, but coming out here, I felt welcome.
Right. Well, certainly one thing you'll find a lot of here in Nigeria is a lot of black folks. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of them.
Of course.
Beautiful.
But I mean, you were talking about the fact that by several accounts. I mean, some accounts suggest that more than 40% of black Americans trace their ancestral roots to what is now Nigeria. So one would naturally expect that search for their roots, which has always been quite a big deal for, I mean, I went to university in America, so I know quite a lot of the way that, the black consciousness has evolved there. It's a big deal for many black Americans, and you would think that the fact that there are so many of them who trace their roots to Nigeria, it would attract them to Nigeria. But they appear to be going mostly to Ghana and sort of Gambia, Senegal, and all the rest of it, but not Nigeria.
Right.
Why do you think that's the case?
A lot. I mean, it's a great question. Myself, I've been to Ghana 6 times. Going to go back in December, and this is my first time in Nigeria. So,
well, there we are.
So I have some perspective around this. I think one of the things that Ghana has done, they have made a concerted effort to do outreach to African Americans. You can see that reflected in many of their programming and their policies in terms of offering of citizenship. And I think that has paid dividends in terms of black folks in America coming to Ghana, viewing that as the gateway and bringing our economic buying power with us. But what is fortunate, I think there's a roadmap. I think if Nigeria wants to attract more African Americans to return home, there's also some things that could be done in terms of policies to be able to do that. For example, when we entered here, we had to pay a visa. We had to wait in the same line, go through the same process as the people who enslaved us. That doesn't seem right, especially when you go back.
And you don't get that in Ghana?
Ghana, you have to go through some of the same processes as well. But again, if we want to say, how can we take a proactive step forward? How do we want to begin to have African Americans choose a different point of destination? You have to then do something different or something more than countries in which African Americans are more familiar with. So whether Ghana does that or not, I think there's an opportunity to extend a further outreach to African Americans through looking at different policies and different practices or different marketing and branding because of the art that is coming out of Nigeria. There's an awareness of Africans in America, African Americans that want to engage in Nigeria because you have done a tremendous job in the creative arts. So I think it is a very easy bridge to build to be able to see African Americans wanting to return to Nigeria.
I think that's a very important point. And coming to you, Xzavier, as a sort of young man who's come to Nigeria for the first time and so on, I mean, I imagine the incentive to return would be greater if some of the policies that he's talking about are adopted in this country.
Definitely. And I also want to say, I believe it has to stem from community outreach. If I was never a part of this group to begin with, or even the nonprofit that was able to get me to Johannesburg, I simply would not have came to Africa. And there would be no telling when I would come back home. So with that being said, if we continue to push these very positive groups back in the States as well as in Africa, we can continue to bridge the gap between Africans and African Americans.
But I mean, do you feel that this is home?
I do feel like this is home.
Right.
And
I mean,
also
could
feel
you
like
actually live here?
Definitely.
And work here?
And it's funny though, because my first trip to Johannesburg, I was like, do I think I could live here? Maybe a summer, but I don't know about forever. But I actually was able to find some of my DNA, and I did find out, well, majority of Africans do come from Nigeria.
Right.
But I found out majority of my DNA stems from Nigeria. So I feel like this trip has hit home for me in a different way.
That's very interesting, because I'm sure immediately most Nigerians would ask you, what part of Nigeria?
Right, exactly.
What part of Nigeria does your DNA come from?
And I'm still at that point where I need to do
I
my
like
research.
that. Very diplomatic answer. Well, let me come to you,
Yes,
Dr. Bush. I mean, how much longer do you have in Nigeria on this visit?
Yeah, we'll be here for another week or so, so we'll return in a couple of days back to Lagos, where we'll finish out the remainder of our trip. But it is our hope to come back, to build collaboration, to work on some meaningful projects. So anytime we leave a space, we want to make that space better.
Right.
At least we want to open up opportunity to make it better. And that's our hope, is that as a byproduct of our work here, that opportunity would present itself in Nigeria.
So what have you seen so far since you've been here?
We have done a vast amount of things, starting at Lagos, going to a lot of different, we did a museum, a very art museum. Nikki was very beautiful. Of course, the food. But we've also gone to some LGAs. Compared to out here, how there's districts. So it is a lot of difference, even though there's a lot of similarities. We have gone to primary schools and we have gone to universities, which is amazing seeing the beautiful African success. But we have also seen some of the tragic and historic things like the Badagry and then the slave dungeons. So it has been a roller coaster for me, to be honest. And I feel like sometimes I catch myself not being as present. But when I was able to travel to the Badagry and actually go down that path, walk down that stretch, that was the time on this trip where it instantly snapped. And
Yes,
I was instantly able
I
to
can
be
imagine.
present.
And of course, you are the president of a college, what you call, I suppose, community colleges. I mean, in one of the prominent community colleges in California.
Yes.
I mean, you've been doing some academic outreach as well down here, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that AMEN as an organization is working on, we're partnering with the California Community College System, which quickly is the largest system of higher education in the world, 2.1 million students, 116 colleges. We are beginning to create what's called a Pan-African Virtual College. So currently we are piloting that program with 4 universities in Ghana to create an online course sharing platform that will allow students to freely take courses between those universities in a college, in a community college system. But we are looking to expand that. So beginning to have some conversations with universities in Nigeria to be a part of that next phase of the work. So there's nothing like this that exists in the world. So we absolutely excited about its potential.
Well, we're very glad that you came, and thank you very much indeed to both of you for coming on and talking to us and sharing your experience so far of Nigeria. Hopefully you'll be back again and beyond the jollof rice. And the rest of it.
Of course.
I mean, try the okra soup and the, that's my favorite soup, by the way. And all the others, egusi and so on. But Dr. Edward Bush is the president of Cosumnes River College in Sacramento, California. He's also a founding member and president-elect of A2 Mend. And of course, Xzavier Boykin is a student member of A2 Mend. He's traveling with the group. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you.